All right, folks, let's fight. Welcome to the broadcast this evening. Happy to be here with you, folks. Wherever you're joining us from in Guyana, wherever you're joining us from around the world, folks, welcome, 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 welcome. Good to have each and every one of you on the live. Share the broadcast, folks. Smash that emoji button for us and partner with us too so that we can keep on going on. By now, different setting. We're on the sidelines of the sitting of the National Assembly. It's budget week, it's the budget period. The budget was read last Monday, and the debates began last Friday, and we're considering the expenditures and estimates of the budget 2025, folks. And that is what takes us to the sidelines of the National Assembly. Good evening to all of you. Do let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. Jermaine and Lester, Charles, Wayne, Pretty Milicia, Valme. I see Brennan is here as well, and Charles Nelson. Good to have all of you folks on the live tonight. All of you. Claire Capella's on the live too, and I see Tommy Gibbs, Orrin Don, Cook, and all the other folks. You all know when we're in this mode, we're more prone to fits and starts, so forgive us if we bounce off. Forgive us when we come back, please and thank you. We're just working with what we got. It's that kind of evening. I'm in this little area with one of our MPs. Ronald Cox is here. He's borrowing some space at the back doing his own thing. Brother from another mother. Got a big family, Charles and Vanilla Garnet. Good to have all of you on the live with us tonight. Great to have you folks. We are informal tonight, folks. As I said, we're on the sidelines of the sitting of the National Assembly. The debate finished last evening, the debate aspect of the budget 2025, and we're into scrutinizing now the different ministries come before the National Assembly, and the parliamentary opposition has the opportunity to quiz them on any number of things pertaining to their budget, pertaining to their line item, as you say, program by program. You quiz them how they're going to spend this money, and, based on how they've been spending it over the last 4 years, it leaves much to be desired how some of these ministers are going to get through, because you got a lot of programs lagging. I'm going to have a guest this evening. Folks, talking to some issues in agriculture, because that was one of the first ministries that came up this morning. And so I'm going to have a guest, and we're going to be touching on a couple of very, very important things, a lot of scandals in agriculture. A lot of them. Sheena Hazel, Lyndon Gill, Paul Bourne, Gail Alicock, Simon Graves. Good to have all of you there. Really good to have all of you. Everil and Lannis, Paul and Dorrit. Great to have you. Orrin Don Cook. Good to see you on the live tonight. All of you folks, thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you guys so very, very, very much. Wherever you're joining us from. And look, we got quite a few things to discuss tonight, folks. I ain't gonna lie to you all. Quite a few things. So I think I want to get to it right away. But good to have all of you on with us. As we said, wherever you're joining us from, share the broadcast, smash that emoji button for us. Good folks, do that for us. If you care anything about your program, do that for us. And I'm trying to get my notes together. Is it going to happen? Well, I hope so. Trying to get it together, folks. As I said, great to have all of you joining us from the very many places you all are joining us from. Let me make another try that. It's a makeshift operation we have. So y'all forgive us. Makeshift operation. Please and thank you. Forgive us. We'll be back to regular programming in another week's time. The scrutiny of the estimates come to an end next Wednesday, and then we should be back on familiar grounds, in familiar territory, in the studio regularly from next week, at least from midweek next week. And as I said, great to have all of you here with us. It's not kicking from this end, folks. But you all know we're in this, we're coming more and more into this election period, election 2025. Something's got to give, folks. We got to move ahead. We got to pick up the pace a little bit. These guys doing a lot of stuff that if we sharp, we could capitalize on. Rohan and The other folks, thank you guys so much. You see, you all said stop ringing the bell. Thanks very much. And you see, only Rohan would say stop. It's makeshift, so I don't have a monitor to hear it. Right? Please and thanks. Lannis and Hazel and Sheena. I told you all any number of things bound to happen when we come out on the road like this. I can't use the earpiece here. I can't hear it. Thank you guys. Y'all are sharp. y'all are sharp. Good to have all of you on this evening. Our apologies, folks. Our apologies. Our apologies. Forgive us. So let's get into it, folks. Let's get into it. A number of things. So election 2025 is upon us. Are you guys ready? Luan, are you guys ready? Ronald? Are you guys ready? Ronald here and the online at the same time. Marcia, Ronald is right across the room, right in the back there. And he's on the live too. Some people like that, you know, the extra, the plenty, the enough. Natasha, good to have you too. And I see Lannis and Pinky and Lester, Desmond and Floret, Neville and Pink. I call Pinky already. Yolanda and all the other folks on with us tonight. Is the bell off? Is the bell off? I hope so. Budget 2025, we're going to get into some of it, folks. On the other side, why don't we start here? There's a Trump envoy that was sent to meet with Nicolas Maduro because Trump grooving in, right? An envoy, his name is Richard, right? Grinnell, and himself and Maduro, I think they met in Venezuela on Friday, today, right? And this is amid a deportation, the report says, an anti-gang push by the Trump administration. Everybody knows that Trump loves to meet with folks of the Maduro ilk. I say anything wrong yet, Deborah? Marlin, Regine, Godfrey, Donna, I said anything wrong as yet? Have I? He loves this kind of thing. We saw it with Kim Jong-un. We saw it with Vladimir Putin. Right? He loves this kind of strongman thing. Carly Dredd, good to see you on the live. Avril and Richie. So he sent this youngster here, Richard McGarrell, as his envoy to meet with Maduro. I don't know who's more elevator and reaching the top floor. Let's put it in that way. The elevator is not reaching on the top floor. Maxine, good to see you. Pinky, Oswald, Godfrey, Rena, and Keith, the other folks who are joining us tonight. Thank you guys so much. So that's one thing that's happening there. And look next door. We got some trouble, folks, in Trinidad and Tobago. The Commissioner of Police, it seems like an oxymoron to hear the Commissioner of Police detained. You know, democracies work differently in different places. Could you fathom a sitting Commissioner of Police in Guyana detained? How? By which powers that be? Them and he's the same thing. But you see, you got in some countries where the rule of law is the rule of law, and nobody's above it. And we all got to be held by the very same standard. So this is Trinidad and Tobago. This is the first female Commissioner of Police in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Erla Haywood Christopher, the Commissioner of Police. And this has to do with the importation of firearms by a local dealer. That's what the information suggests. Right? But this has to do with that, the importation of, and not just firearms, sniper rifles. Sniper rifles. Right? So it's Early Haywood Christopher, the former head of the Sole Intelligence Agency, Roger Best, Chief of Defense Staff, Daryl Daniel, and a local dealer were all yesterday, they said, caught in a police net as key persons of interest in an ongoing investigation into the Strategic Services Agency acquisition of 2 sniper rifles. Yeah, you wouldn't see that locally here at all. Here's somebody Ronald might know. Irene Davis from Region 1 is joining us. Thank you, Irene. I got y'all MP here with me tonight. Detaining him a little bit. Lucille Kendall and Leon Logan, Seafarers Pride and Michelle McKay. Could you fathom this locally, guys? Michelle and Lucille, could you fathom this? Everybody being held, accountable in this way? Could you fathom that? Lots of us could not. So this is right. CARICOM sister country, Trinidad and Tobago. Right down there is a 1-hour plane flight, and you're in TNT, and people can be, quote unquote, held accountable. Some folks here immune to arrest. Heaven Faith, Murnus Toby, Don Walker, Pinky, Deborah. But in Trinidad, Marlon says never happened. Marlon says never happened. Would never happen. Back in the days. Never did they canoe board punt. You all remember that? I pulled it out in left field. Never did they canoe board punt. Would you see that locally here? Trinidad. Right? All are equal before the law. U.S. getting a little different now. It used to be that case, but you can now have a convict being president. Interesting time. Very, very, very tremendously, very interesting times. There's one of the things we're watching at, folks. That's Trinidad and Tobago. So we started you guys out internationally, and we're now bringing you guys closer in. Bringing you folks closer in. And they're telling us that Little Lines for Change, Nigel Hughes had some thoughts about a businessman. Jack did think at one time said he was his friend, and the buying up of land. And this is prime real estate. Right? Prime real estate. And folks wanting to know now how this fella getting all this land. How they getting all this land? This is according to Dem Waves, United States businessman, United States-based Guyanese, right? Edo Lamad. He was convicted in New York for mortgage fraud, and he has inked an agreement for the purchase of land near ExxonMobil's new headquarters at Ogle on the East Coast. And he's supposed to be building a residential complex. So folks want to know how all of this going down. Lots of things happening. People eating up these land. Mr. Mad Demwari says, who signed this agreement in his capacity of director and secretary of New Global Investment Corporation, right? And Vice President Jack, you are friends. This is Demwari reporting here again. Ahmad was convicted in the U.S. in 2017 for mortgage fraud, and he has been ordered to repay $2.6 million to victims. You know, we couldn't get a little half-acre land, the red tape you will go through. Right? But you see, friends, family, and favorites. My God. Friends, family, and favorites. You all share the light for us. Please and thank you. Do that for us. So then we was picking up on this story where Mr. Hughes has released selected pages of the agreement of sale between Central Housing Authority and the New Global Investment Corporation on his Facebook page and questioned how could such prime land be sold at $30 million per acre. Who got money, got bargain, folks. And you see how this is an election year? A lot of things are going to be selling out. A lot of things are going to be selling because they don't know what November holds. They're going to carry an air of confidence. Yeah, we're going back, we're going back. The opposition is nonsense, it's foolishness. Landslide, big margin, and then behind the scenes, look at their actions. You'll see a lot of TV licenses, spectrum licenses being given out. Right? Just in case. Just in case. So again, leader of the Lines of Change pointing out, raising concerns about this price tag for prime real estate by Edamat's company for upscale housing. Right? Give them that foothold, that 2.6 million, ain't gonna be nothing to pay back. Folks, there ain't gonna be nothing to pay back. Friends, family, and favorites. Good folks, share the live for us. Smash that emoji button, folks, and let's go down the road. Plenty of things happening. See, I'm being abandoned now by MP Ronald Cox. Region 1 is abandoning me. Sharing this space with some of the MPs here. So that's what Nigel is saying, folks. And let's go on now. We're coming home. We're coming home. Why are you all surveilling? Why are you all surveilling? Please and thank you. The Assistant Commissioner of Police. Why are you all surveilling him? I don't understand it. Why are you all surveilling him? I thought you were fair people. Surveilling. And he asked some interesting questions on his Facebook page recently. He asked some very, very interesting questions. Right. Tremendously very important and interesting questions on his Facebook page. I wanna quote a couple of them for you. I want to quote a couple of them for you. And then we're going to see where he's going with it. All right. Let me quote a couple of them. Some of what he wrote quite recently. He says, if the state is so interested in having me pay for the alleged malpractice they claim I have committed, and they are confident of achieving success or a successful prosecution or prosecution in relation to the more than 200 charges against me, why are they not allowing these trials to start? Why are they not allowing the matter to start? This is Calvin Brutus asking on his Facebook page, why is Soku stalling the process? If they're confident of success in this case, in this case. Some of the questions he's asking, why are they stalling? Why are they stalling? They're in a holding pattern. I'm telling you what the Assistant Commissioner of Police is asking. If they're confident of success, why are they doing what they're doing? Interesting times, folks. Interesting times. Let me quote a couple other questions. What do you all think happening here, folks? Brennan, let me go. What do you all believe is happening here? Oh, it's tetanus. He says, why at every court date? It's another excuse for why they are unable to proceed. At the rate they start this circus, one would have believed they had all they needed to get this over with and done. Calvin Brutus. He said, I will tell you why they have not started. I will tell you why they are afraid to proceed. You remember when our boy was untouchable? Look at life, huh? One day you're the spider, next day you're the fly. You know, they tell us, when you're growing up in life, they say must help people, because when you're passing down, Brennan, Lyndon, Pinky, Ingrid, Tommy, they say when you're passing down, you pass some of the same people you passed when you were growing up. Yep. So that's some of what's happening on that side, folks. Hear what else he says. He says they have nothing. They have nothing. They have nothing. All of this was done to frustrate me. That's how I feel. I told you all this morning or yesterday morning, the lawyer called me after I was finished heckling the that in there. His lawyer called me. He said, he's suing you. Come and collect the document. He didn't even say he was suing me. He said, I want to serve you some legal documents. Will you uplift them? Right? He think I named Todd. He think I said Paku. He could bust me back. Calvin Brutus says, they have nothing. All of this was done to frustrate me, force me into retiring from the Ghana police force, and to facilitate superseding me at the recent promotions of deputy commissioners of police. He says the challenge they are having right now is that they never expected me to stand up and fight the way I'm doing at the moment. Calvin Brutus says the government is fully behind the charade and not accustomed to this level of pushback from people who they choose to go after. My God. Brothers and sisters, friends, if they could go after Calvin Brutus, what he is saying here, who is me? Huh? Who is you, Wanda? Huh? Margaret says, Shared, you become a courier? Yeah. I got to serve myself a party. Eva, Linda, if they could do that to him, who is me? Who is me? All this happened in the Ghana police force. Calvin Brutus, John Bascom, the list goes on. And the man still get commissioner of police. He still got commissioner of police, Eula. And then we saw Big Smith today broke this story of this sergeant. Was she kidnapped? If somebody forced you in a car against your will and take you from point A to somewhere you don't want to go, what's that? Diane, Pinky, Sporily, what's that? What is that? I want to know. Thomasina, what you call that? Deborah, Lyndon, Jamal, what you call that? If that is not kidnapping, what it is? What is it? If it's not kidnapping, what is it? So this is what Big Smith broke today. This story about the woman sergeant who alleged, among other things, that she thought she was going to be abducted, right? Or something more serious was going to happen to her when she was duped into joining a heavily tinted car, she says, a few days ago, which was being driven by a deputy commissioner of police. Folks, what has happened to the Ghana police force? In which other country in the world would you hear this madness? In which other country in the world would you hear this? Deborah, what happened in here? Kurt, Spurley, Shireen, Eva, Uncle Harry. What a guan. Chaos and confusion. Brennan says, wow. She says she feels as though she was going to be abducted and that something even more serious was going to happen. This in Guyana, you know. The Calvin Brutus matter boiled down yet. It didn't simmer down yet, and it's something else. Something else. This is people Guyana. I don't like it. I can't lie. Beth, Marcia, Michelle is a PPP Guyana, and I ain't like it. Right? I tell you the real truth, Veronica, Clyde. I tell you the real truth. I ain't like it. I don't. So let's look to see how this goes. I got to catch up with it because I think I saw something that Big Smith is going to have an interview with her later on this evening. Right? What is it, 411? And that? The police force needs its own 530. Joy, Dion, the police force needs its own 530. Neville says it's police excess. My God. How much more we got to endure until we seek to return this police force to professionalism? Edward watching us from the Bronx, and Lester Williams, Pinky Haley. F.O. Armstrong is here. Thank you, F.O. for joining us. Karen, welcome, is here too. You know, may God guide this lady. May he direct her path. Election 2025 is upon us. It's a wild, wild west out here, you know. Let us be careful. Let us be careful. So this is one of the things we're following, folks. Then interestingly, the GCCI says it got some challenges with the it has some challenges with the inefficiency of the NIS. It has some challenges with the inefficiency of the National Insurance Scheme. It says it views with consternation and dissatisfaction the high level of inefficiency in the operation of the National Insurance Scheme. This don't fall under Ashley. It don't fall under the Minister of Finance, the National Insurance Scheme now. Then the GCCI say everything nice in this country the other day, and they ain't got no problems. They say now they view with consternation and dissatisfaction the high level of inefficiency in the operation of the National Insurance Scheme. They said they have received complaints from members of the business community as well as individuals who feels it knows. Who feels it knows. You see, they don't want Bell the Cat. Because this is a nice time budget for the haves, but see the have-nots. This is where the trouble really starts. It's a nice time budget for those who have. Everyone says shame on what's. You know the whole thing. Right? Shame on what? O'Neill says, is your glasses for me? O'Neill, I can barely see, but I can tell you. Shame on what? You all know your label. Shame. Shame on what, he says. Yep. Shame. Right? And the GCCI saying shame on NIS. This is Wild West country. But we got to fix NIS and stop in this piss meal. You know, if we overhauling, we overhauling. I said when Ashley running there, you remember he went on a meeting pensioners tour. I said everything fixed by now. 4 or 5 years after. So I'm surprised by this headline. The GCCI got issued with the efficiency in NS. Because I said how Ashley and Jagdio running there, everything is everything. But apparently that's not the case at all. Which brings us, folks, to budget 2025. And that's why we are where we are in the National Assembly. Scrutinizing, we're asking questions, we're interrogating, we're drilling down. We hauling out, we pulling out, we rooting out. You know, what are doing with this? All these trillions upon trillions of dollars, and we seem like we are moving. Akila Howard, Linda, Iban, like we are moving. Some of our colleagues had some quite interesting things to talk about. Budget 2025 is here upon us. This morning we began this interrogation and questioning, ministry by ministry, agency by agency, line item by line item, on how they're going to spend this money. We saw some woes in agriculture. We can talk to one of our members of parliament who, put a lot of questions to Zulfi. Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa Zulfi. Compelling arguments. Putting it to them. But before we get there, folks, as I said, the Honorable Minister Volda Lawrence, the Honorable Member, she was on her feet today. I don't know if we have some of that. And you can tell the lady has been at this for some time as a member of parliament. You know, like when you catch a frog on the hop, them boys is. That's how she catch Zulfi. And the minister was dancing around, but Volda knew he didn't have no answer. He didn't know what he's talking about. He didn't know the program and the money they have been spending in the past and then producing nothing for it. I don't know if we have that queued, but I'll tell you what we have queued is some issue she drew to our attention yesterday as well in National Assembly. Right? Some things she drew our attention to. You see, poverty is a hell of a thing, eh? Poverty and wastage. I hope I got it queued up right.
Former Health Minister Volda Lawrence has said that Guyana, boasting the fastest growing economy in the world, and despite yet another $1 trillion budget, 48% of the country is living in poverty. Many are agonizing when they will receive the next paycheck or the promised $100,000 catch grant.
Budget 2025 is putting a large bandage over a festering sore. This purulent sore to which I am alluding is the inescapable poverty besetting some 50% of our nation. And I want to elaborate, Mr. Speaker, on the stranglehold in which the ordinary people of Guyana are caught and which Budget 2025 has not effectively and adequately addressed.
She said that there are many people seeking the help of Azruddin Mohammed to help them in these trying times. She said that the well-being of the pensioners is being eroded.
Each year, Mr. Speaker, many pensioners have their hopes dashed after working for many years and planning on receiving both NIS and old age pensions to eke out post-work existence. They are left on the hopeless bench. The National Insurance Scheme's yearly reports starkly relate this story.
She said that over the past 3 years, Guyana experienced double-digit growth. This was driven by the oil sector, she said.
The government earned $2.5 billion in revenues from oil exports, a significant increase from $1.62 billion in 2023. However, Mr. Speaker, despite these impressive figures, many have expressed concerns that the 2025 budget does not translate this economic prosperity into meaningful improvements for the lives of the general population. According to the World Bank, 48% of our population, we're speaking of approximately 384,000 Guyanese of our approximately 800,000 population.
Ms. Lawrence also called on the government to remove the value-added tax introduced by the government on all food items. She also commented on the breach of people's accounts at the commercial banks.
Despite the acclaimed lofty reform of the financial sector, yet the risk at the banks persists for the ordinary Guyanese who resort to Facebook to express frustration when monies are withdrawn with no proper accountability from their personal accounts. Imagine the dismay of a pensioner who last December went to do a withdrawal transaction only to be told of the negligible amount remaining in her account. The account had been breached.
She said that foreign transactions are also difficult to conduct.
Lack of foreign currency or sums required are not readily available. We see a lot of it in the newspapers. Mr. Speaker, when the Honorable Minister tells us that they have spent the monies passed in the budget, he boasts of spending more than 90% of the monies allocated, but it is all a misappropriation of the truth.
She said that the government encourages ministries to withhold money at the end of the year.
For 3 years, 2021 through 2023, they withheld some $3.439 billion. In 2021, $623.4 million. 2022, $352.6 million. And in 2023, $2,463 million were all withheld. Sir, the holy, sanctimonious, and expropriators are well known over the past 32 years in government.
There were overpayments to contractors. The sum was some $153 million.
When we add overpayments and disposable drugs, some $9.413 billion wasted, gone to friends, families, and favorites.
Yep. That was the Member of Parliament, Volda Lawrence, walking us through a lot of issues there, folks. And I want to turn your attention now to some of what David Patterson said quite recently, Member of Parliament David Patterson, as well on the Norwegians and why at one point they wanted to abandon us on a particular project. Why they wanted to abandon us on a particular project. You see, the people like to talk half, brothers and sisters. They like to talk half and left the other half. David Patterson speaking here on the sidelines of the sitting of the National Assembly. Take a look.
The Inter-American Development Bank had concluded that the Amaila Falls project was unsustainable and couldn't attract funding from the bank. Works Minister Wanaja later contended that there was another feasibility study.
IDB themselves did a due diligence on the project. In 2014, it went to the board of directors, and the board of directors said, they have a scale of 1 to 7, 1 to 8 when they rank how feasible the project is. Amaila Falls, according to IDB, after studying the project for 4 years, was ranked number 7.
Patterson said that the PPP then lobbied Norway for a review of the project.
Norconsult did a review of the project, and Norconsult concluded, and this is what Edge was quoting, that it has flaws, it is not sustainable, but of all the projects that we have, it was the most advanced. That was their conclusion. They said, we never studied any other project as in depth as the PPP tried to study. Mm-hmm. So they never recommended that it was feasible. They said that we have to change it, we have to redesign it.
Norway said that the structure was flawed.
In their report, they said that there's flaws in the structure, flaws in the financing, flaws in it. And they recommended it would take 3 years of further study to fix the flaws before we can go. It's there, it's a public document.
Norway had lodged $80 million with the IDB.
But the Norwegian government came to Guyana, and it came to Guyana with the idea that Amaila Falls are nothing. And we explained to them the whole diversification of renewable energy program we had, and it's still there. That's all bringing back Maka, Kumu. We already started Kato Hydro Falls, the solar farms in Mabaroom and all the townships.
Patterson said that the Norwegians had come with the preconception that Guyana wasn't in line with the promise to pursue renewable energy.
After we carried them, and after we explained to them, and after we showed them, the Norwegian minister, they came for 3 days. At the end of the first day, they went back they were staying in Pegasus. And the next morning, the Norwegian minister came to the meeting and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Minister, we have had an epiphany." That's our exact words. He set out the program that you, AP, and you put together for a renewable pathway, far superior than anything the PPP has ever presented.
The Norwegians then instructed IDB to release the $80 million US. The coalition used the money to tender for solar farms.
That was the Norwegian government threw away, because after they went through and they threw away the idea that Amaila Falls was good for Guyana and said, "Oh, we're following it." So that's one of the reasons why they can't get the project off, because no credible funding agency in the world, other than the Chinese, are willing to fund the Amaila Falls.
All right, guys. So that was David Patterson there, and you heard those arguments why the Norwegians abandoned Amaila Falls. It was not sustainable. It just was not. And I have to let you hear also some of what the leader of the opposition, leader of the PNCR, said on the floor of National Assembly last night. Again, calling out this government on some very, 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 very critical issues. And when we come back on the other side of that, I want to take you to my guest, who, as I told you, himself raised some very pertinent issues on the floor of the National Assembly this morning amidst this whole interrogation and questioning of the national expenditures and estimates. But take a listen and take a look at some of what Mr. Norton said, again, calling out this government on a number of issues. Take a look.
Opposition leader Aubrey Norton used his Budget 2025 critique to highlight the untruth of the government speakers. One of those speakers was Gail Teixeira, the government chief whip.
The Honorable Member Gail Teixeira suggested in 1992, when they came to power, there were no proper houses. But I can recall seeing her in South Rheinfeldt in the 1980s. And those were complete housing schemes, not house lots. So she must know that it is totally untrue.
He said that his party has a proud record of not giving house lots, but of putting people in houses and communities. He said that the housing schemes that his party built are numerous. And he said that the Prime Minister established that there was a quality hospital before the PPP came to office in 1992.
I believe members of Parliament should try and stick to the truth. I heard the Honorable Member Gail Teixeira talking about the growth rate in 1992. And then the Honorable Prime Minister quoted part of the McIntyre report, but he didn't deal with the part which suggested that the ERP had turned around the economy in Guyana. And when they came to power, there was 7% growth.
He examined a comment by the Attorney General that Guyana wants free and fair elections.
But the best way to guarantee that in 2025 is to give us biometrics and a clean voters list. How do you come here, Mr. Speaker? How do you come here, Mr. Speaker, and argue that you want elections that are credible, but outside you're fighting biometrics and a clean voters list, which are two essential ingredients to have free and fair elections?
He said that there continues to be the distribution of wealth to friends, family, and favorites.
Prime Minister must remember, if he's looking at his family, as he claims, he has a family that is living in terrible conditions in Linden. I won't say it's who, but he has a family that is living in terrible condition in Linden that he should have dealt with.
Norton said that the budget gives nothing to the small man.
All right, folks, as you saw there, that was the leader of the opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, making the arguments. And I want to take you to that discussion on the sidelines of Budget 2025 I had with my colleague, Mr. Vince Roy Jordan, who I said is the Shadow Minister of Agriculture. And again, raising some very, very pertinent issues, Guyanese, in this sector alone, the agricultural sector over the last 4 years, there were so many scandals. And we were all only, based on a limited time, able to touch on a couple of them. So many scandals in the agricultural sector for it. A lot of scandals. I want to take you to that discussion. Take a look, folks. The one and only Vince Roy Jordan, brother from another mother. Take a look and take a listen. Super happy, energized, fired up, ready to go with Vince Roy Jordan, my brother from another mother. Vince Roy, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Sherwood.
Welcome to our broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, we're on the sidelines of the sitting of the National Assembly. We're scrutinizing the expenditures and estimates, budget 2025, and Vince Roy was first up this morning in terms of the Shadow Minister for Agriculture. Agriculture Ministry was up for scrutiny this morning, and Vince Roy had asked a number of questions that had Zulfikar Mustafa, the minister, on the back foot. Really and truly on the back foot. A series of questions, whether it was on the catfish ban, where are we on that? The fishing licenses from Suriname, where are we on that? You asked a number of questions on a series of corruption that has plagued the agriculture sector, corruption at the MMA, corruption at the GMC, Bolex shrimp corruption. We've got the what's the special brand of egg? The duck hair corruption. My God, here is some of that, folks. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk to our brother MP Vince Roy Jordan.
Mr. Chair, there was another probe, and this probe was at the GLDA. Mr. Chair, the Honorable Minister is being asked now, what is the findings, or are the findings of the probe that was launched into the sabotage of duck eggs at GLDA?
We want to ensure that we have open transparency and accountability. When that issue happened, we called in the police. There was a big investigation. A number of persons were interviewed, and the matter is right now with the DPP's chamber. We are waiting on the DPPs to institute whatever they have to do.
What are the findings and recommendations out of the audit launched by the manager or general manager of GMC involving the special projects manager and the accountant, and what were the actions taken? Mr. Chair, you would recall that in 2024, when we had a budgetary allocation, I think it was a same $450 million, that 405, sorry, we had a number of misappropriations at this agency, new GMC, and the general manager, according to the news. But I want the Honorable Minister to say to me, out of the probe, what were the recommendations and the actions taken? Honorable Minister.
Mr. Chair, first of all the documents were looked at by the internal auditors, and they are now with the AGs at the AG's office, right? And so we are waiting the report from the AG's office.
Thank you, Minister. MP Jordan. Mr. Chair, this matter was an internal matter, or I should say still is an internal matter, and we spent millions of dollars at that agency in last year, and we have, or the minister come to this house for another $450 million. Could the Honorable Minister say whether the two persons allegedly involved are still on the job? Honorable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Chair, one is on the job and one went to another agencies to work.
Gaisuko in 2020, or from 2020 to now rather, lost 30 or almost $30 billion. In 2020, it lost 6.4 billion. In 2021, lost 7.8 billion. In 2022, 10.2. 2023, 4.7 billion. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask of the Minister, What will you do to fix this problem of continued losses, and what is the total loss for 2024?
I just mentioned one that we are working to reduce the cost of production. But I mentioned it also, and it has been mentioned with a number of persons, that the industry was in a state where we have to spend a lot of funds to bring it back where it is now.
Thank you, Minister. The last part, Minister, the total losses for 2024.
I don't have that figure, Mr. Chair. When the auditor finish, I will look at it.
All right, folks, welcome back. Again, we have with us, for those of you who are now joining us, share the damn like demand, smash the emoji button. We want other folks to get the valid and credible information. Y'all don't be stingy, especially when we got guests tonight. Ventura, welcome. Talk to us. Let's start with the licenses and the catfish ban.
Yeah, look, Sharon, the Ministry of Agriculture under the People's Progressive Party civic government, we know that there are many things that they would have promised and it has never come forward.
Correct.
For example, let us look at the license from the Suriname government, our counterpart, neighboring.
Rewind and dine Santoki.
Correct. We welcomed him. We did some of the things that we would not do for our own citizens, for Santoki and his guests. And in the long run, we are 4 years in, and we have not yet heard of one fishing license being approved for our farmers, our fishermen. When the president stood, he said that we will have by XYZ time fishing license. The Minister of Agriculture came and rehashed the very words of Ali, and they said that we will have, you know, it brings us back to when they say that we will make 100,000 tons of sugar in 2024.
Correct.
And the end it is only 47,000 tons.
200,000 per household instantaneously.
And then it goes to 100,000, and then it goes to December, and then goes to after the budget.
I'm waiting personally. I know thousands of guys waiting as well. Yeah.
So we understand, you know. So I attempted this morning to get from him what really is happening, because they talk about international relations and the whole conversation. But if you're in a conversation, you must be able to say to me, look, we're renegotiating, we're bargaining, where are we at? We're at the point that we say, look, we will give you not 150 anymore, but we'll give you 100, but we'll give you until next year. Tell us something. Are you talking and not having no decisions as you talk 4 years after? And so we see clearly that this is just another PPP gimmick, and also it tells us, like Mia Martin will get to that, wanting black belly sheep and knowing, giving rather black belly sheep, and with the other hand, she collecting other stuff. But the thing about it is that this government has proven to fail Guyanese over and over again. The issue with regards to the ban on catfish, we painted the roads from the Timeri all the way sidewalks to Georgetown. Built millions of dollars in billboards so that Mike Pompeo could be welcome to Guyana.
Move some vendors and so on.
Vendors.
Dislodged some.
A whole host of things. And today, we know for a fact that the ban on catfish is still there. But what is worse is that the minister could not have said definitively for any of the two when, what is the stage of the discussion. And so I can assess from that it is a total breakdown in the whole discussion with regards to the license and the lifting of the ban on catfish. And so I believe it will not happen. They're just a few months out of the 5 years. It's a dead deal, and it will not happen. And so I say to our fisher folk, don't wait on the PPP. They're going to come as the election draws near, and they're going to tell you, oh yes, we will have it for the new term. It will not happen.
Wow.
It will not happen.
We're in a sad state of affairs. And it's exacerbated by the fact that we have a lot of corruption in these entities that the Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for. We did talk about some of them, the for instance, the MMA. We talked about the GMC. We talked about, it's chicken smuggling, a whole number of things.
Look, the reality is, year after year, we are giving to these semi-autonomous agencies that are riddled with corruption, hundreds of millions of dollars. We give to GMC $405 million. They came back for more. We give to GMC. We've given to GMC again now $450 million.
And it shouldn't be questioned.
And you're telling me that I must not ask about questions that are important or key to the spending of our monies and the misappropriation of the very monies, because no less of a person than the accountant of that agency and the special projects manager, these are the people that are responsible for the spending, the initiating and planning of our monies.
Again, Ventura, this is the Ghana Corporation. They said 2 persons were involved. One of them is no longer with the organization. He's in another entity. Under the government, and one remains. And what's interesting, this is months now this story has been running. They've said that the findings or the documents, according to the documents is with the Attorney General's office. I wonder when we're getting back.
Now look, this is an internal, or that was an internal probe. As a matter of fact, it should not have been with the Attorney General, because when it was time for the minister to make his intervention, he did not do anything.
Correct.
It was the general manager who defied all, whatever they might have said to her. And she said, I am ordering an audit because I know there are misappropriations of millions of dollars in this entity.
They wanted to give her a basket to fetch water.
Correct.
And she said, no way.
No.
All right, and launched that probe. So you have that happening. The status on that is that it's with the AG's office. And they ain't going to come out to a thing, because the minister himself should be investigated, because he said he had launched the investigation, and then the general manager
said he did not.
Correct. So you have that, and then you have the Myconia Barry Agricultural Development Authority, the MMA ADA. We've got some action happening there too, because these guys are kleptocratic.
Very much. And he said that the man is no longer on the job. I will verify that. But the point I want to make here,
stating that the $500,000 that was misappropriated and it was returned, it seems as though you just get a little slap on the wrist.
Yeah, you put it back, and then
quote unquote put it back too, because
quote unquote. But the thing about it, from all that I know, the man was still on the job up until the press release was done by the coalition. He was still on the job. So is it that if we had said nothing would have been done? Because they said that no, but after they know, they took immediate action. And when they asked for them to respond, they did not answer then, but now the minister said, and he said it was only $500,000. But I want guys to know, we have information that suggests it is far more than $9 million that were misappropriated by one person, and then another set totaling almost $5 million by another 3. So I don't understand when they try to cover up these things. But, and again, we giving MMA another $600 and something million only for friends, families, and favorites to thief it out.
Yeah.
Because they're not spending it to the betterment of our farmers.
There was another issue that I noted this morning during the interrogation of the estimated expenditures, is that when it comes to things that are praiseworthy, quote unquote, because we got to fact check a lot of them, the minister went on and on and on and on. But when it comes to the catfish ban, the Ghana Suriname Fishing License Agreement, the Ghana Manufacturing Corporation issue with corruption, the MMA ADA issue, when it comes to the DOCEG issue, he's so dismissive and he wants to go past it very quickly. Interesting.
What he did is that when he had the opportunity to speak about other things, he really know what he will do and what he did not do, what the PNC and the APNU did not do. But when it came into those questions, he quickly stood up, 2-3 lines, and he sat down back quickly, so that he would not have, he did not much to say rather, and that he would not be for the grill. But I want the agriculture minister to know that we will continue to press for these answers. And if we don't have the answers by chance, that when we get into office late in the year, we will ensure that we reopen all these probes and deal with the persons that are responsible.
Accountability can only mean one thing. It doesn't have a lot of shades and flavors and so on. Finally, MP, before I let you go, a lot of projects are languishing. A lot of projects are neither here nor there, and every year seems to be pumping out more money into these projects. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Look,
slush funds.
We know they're building over 10 pump stations across the country, and now including 3 Hope-like canals. There is an area that they're using specifically for the slush fund. $500 and something million, $800 and something million. You know the famous talk show host. Brutus. He got $800 and something dollars, and his project hasn't moved off the ground as yet. There's one at Bellevue that since 2022 it moved off the ground as yet.
That's his own Bellevue.
Some that started in 2021 Port John. We asked him about them. Some he said it's to be completed in July, August of this year. Jimbo Bridge and the others grow.
And the mayor's charity.
What is alarming about it?
Something's happening at Cottage.
I'll get to Cottage. But what is alarming about those at Metro Maysard, Jimbo Bridge, Port John, and so on, for Guy needs to understand, is that the completion date is set for July, August of this year. But he cannot at this time provide the percentage of works that were completed as of January 2025. So what that is telling me is that nothing much is happening, and we know nothing much is happening.
You come for more money.
But you come for more money. You're supposed to say to us, by now, in an 18 months contract, look, we're at 50%, we had some delays due to what, and we will complete, and we will work to meet that deadline, or we will have to have a 3 months extension, or what. At Cottage Myconi, last year, January, the minister stood in this very house, and the minister said that the project was estimated to be completed, or expected to be completed at March 30th, 2024.
I think it was at 80%.
It was at 80%. When I grilled the minister in November of 2024, coming for some more millions of dollars for the same project, the minister said the project is at 75%.
Wow.
I said, man,
the more you grill is the more.
So I said, these things seems to be reversing rather than going forward. Now, he said it will be finished then by 31st December 2024. We come back on the 31st January 2025. Give and take, he wanted 6 weeks. Come on, you pass your 34th, and then you're telling us it is at 80% still. So when will you complete this 20%? Then we hear about calamity, we hear about high tide, we hear about spring tide, we hear about the door breaking in. Now look, if we stick to specification, if we stick to contract document, if we stick to bills of quantity, we cannot go wrong with the quality of work that we are to put out. And that is where the problem is. They're telling us $800 something million, and in some cases we are reliably informed that the reality is that the project actually is just about $300 and something million.
Wow. Just before we go, Vintroy, I want to pick your brain on Gaisuku. That's another major area, and from 21% decrease in sugar, contraction in sugar, they're hoping to do, I think, 115%. Help us, make it make sense for me.
Look, I don't understand. I call it madness. Because let me, the 21%, why I have not made mention of it in any either request, consideration, or my budget debates, is because it is not the reality. The reality is that the original target, the minister stood in that house and said 100,000 metric tons. And so if you check against the 100,000, it is really a decline with regard to the 47,000 metric tons out of 100 and not out of 70,000 metric tons. And so you will find that you have over 50% decline and failure as with regard to the target. Now, when you look at that and you recognize that Gaisuko selling sugar lower than the price of production, Gaisuko failing to have field workers, the very mechanization that he's talking about in some cases is being poorly done. You talk about the contracts on the estate, you talk about him not doing any work to the factories, which is the heart of the sugar estate. You got the field and then the factory, and then you come in to tell us that you're making 100 and you're increasing the target by 115%. It is an election gimmick. Don't fool Guyanese. You will not, and I said it to him today, you will not make it. And you're going to hear before the election, as they were talking about the heads will roll, you're going to hear about all that they plan on doing so as to make the target, and they're not going to be giving you figures. It happened before. You're not going to get figures until after the elections. They're going to stop telling you about it. We're going to write to the parliament, ask it, and we're not going to get figures.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to come back and let's talk some more. We got another few days here interrogating the estimates and expenditures. And these are just some of the things that we kept, I think, from 3-4 hours grilling of the minister this morning, him getting very hot under the collar on many occasions. But this is the work of an opposition,
That's right.
and it's a work we're going to give to them quite soon.
That's right. And we will continue to do our work effectively.
Correct. Thank you so much. All right, folks, thank you so much for staying with us. It's a little after 9 at RN. Again, that was MP Vince Roy Jordan talking about so many issues that we touched on as we interrogated the Ministry of Agriculture this morning and various programs and line items and all of that stuff. And a lot of corruption that has been the Ministry of Agriculture over the last 4 years. And there's no way to butter it up or make it sound good. That is what it has been. Simply put, thank you guys so much. We're going to see you guys back here next week as we continue our broadcast, as we continue the scrutiny of the estimates and us bringing the information to you. Thank you so much, each and every one of you. Hard finish, Leslie and Jamal, John and Tommy. Good to have you. Tommy wants to know if I'll be on air tomorrow. It depends. It depends what's happening. You have something for me, Tommy? You have something for me to say? Joel and Dolly, Marlin, Marville, Edward, Laverne, Bantu King. Have a fantastic rest of the evening, folks. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for staying in the overtime just a little bit. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then we can ring the bell for everybody too. Thank you guys so much. That's the time. Stay safe until we see you guys again on our next podcast. Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay safe.